Hi everyone, Chris from MartialBody here, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about how we actually train martial body, the different methods that we may use, the split of training, and the sort of things that we'll do in your average martial body session. So another thing that I get asked quite often is, how does martial body training actually occur? What are we doing on an average training session? How is the training arranged and how is it split? So in this video I'm going to talk about that a little bit, give you some context about the way that the training is structured before we get into the details of what we're actually training. And essentially the majority of martial body training is done on your own. It's what I call solo training. And that is very similar to any other type of supplementary training, really. If you think about doing calisthenics or doing cardiovascular training, normally you're doing that on your own. You're doing push-ups and squats and sit-ups and those sorts of things, or you're going off to the hill to do hill sprints. And martial body training is very similar in that regard. We are doing the vast majority of the work on our own. But then we also have what we call partner testing or partner exercises, whereby we will interact with a partner and test all the methods and all the sort of qualities that we are building in the solo training. So I would say probably 80% of the training is done on our own, and then 20% is done with a partner, normally to test the things that we have been working on whilst we've been doing our solo training. When people observe the martial body method, they see sort of the heavy body methods where we're doing arm swings, or we're rolling around on the ground, or we're stood in a static posture. It can seem a bit strange. It's a bit foreign to most people, and certainly someone who's used to doing work at the gym or doing weights and calisthenics and those sorts of things. It can seem a bit out there because it doesn't map directly onto your understanding of developmental methods. So it's quite understandable that people struggle to understand what we are actually doing when we do a training session. But it's very important that when you view martial body training, you are contextualizing it in the right way. I've recently shared a heavy body session, and it's a lot of arm swings and hanging and rolling on the floor. It's very soft work. But that is because we're specifically working to connect with the off switch in the muscle, something that helps us to utilize our body mass a lot more. I will cover that more when we talk about heavy body specifically, but when we look at the training methods with that context, it suddenly makes a bit more sense. You're trying to actually release tension rather than build it, as you would be if you were doing calisthenics or if you're doing weight training or something like that. And the average training session in martial body when you're working at home follows a very similar pattern. So normally we will do an initial period where we stand completely naturally, don't try and take any posture whatsoever, and we make a self-assessment. We run our mind through our body, find out where we may be stiff or injured or tense or anything. We're just looking to observe the state of the body. And then we'll also observe the general emotional state, the feeling. Am I angry? Am I tired? And what I suggest to people is they then write that down in a diary, and then you can begin the training. And whatever you're working on, you'll gear the training towards that. And then we will do another assessment at the end of the session, which is to look at the things which we felt at the start of the session and see if they've changed. So this gives us a very clear impression about the benefits and merit of the training itself, and it also informs us as to whether we need to adjust anything. So martial body training is mainly solo training. It follows this pattern of observe, train, and then assess at the end, and it's deeply ingrained with this idea of constantly monitoring our progress. No one training martial body should be guessing at what's happening. You should be finding the reality of the training's effect in yourself. Now, there are several ways that we can do that. Initially, we do that while solo training by observing, writing down, and then assessing at the end. And every month or so, we look and see, okay, at the start of the month, I noticed that this was a problem for me and now it's not, or this new problem has created itself, or whatever it might be. And that's extremely valuable. That really informs how we change the training, how we adjust our methods. But then we need to assess our body method against a partner, and that's where the partner training comes in. They can feed back very accurate information. So it's vital that you have a good training partner and there's no egos involved, we're not fighting each other. But that next phase, and it should be a regular occurrence, is also very important. It gives us impressions about where our training may be lacking. So when it comes to how martial body is trained, we train it 80% of the time is spent on solo training, development work. 20% of the time is spent on partner training, and then that feeds into your normal martial arts practice that you can then get feedback from your normal martial arts training partners on how effective the training actually is.